Hey, folks, welcome to the BeyondTheBaselines.com podcast. I'm Ed Shaniff, your host, and today I've got Corey Ball, who's director of tennis at the Pretty Brook Tennis Club up there in Princeton, New Jersey, one of the clubs our firm manages. And it's great to have you on, Corey. Welcome aboard.
It's great to be on it. Thanks for having me on here. Looking forward to a little chat.
Yeah, I mean, not like we don't chat almost every day anyhow, but it's kind of nice to do it.
This is true.
Yeah, we used to chat a lot more during so we started there in 2019, I guess, and we chatted a lot because we had to bring the program kind of back, not the program so much, but the club in a way, because the club had lost some members. It was pre-COVID. But tell us about yourself and how you ended up at the club. Take us back to your tennis career and how you ended up at Pretty Brook.
Sure. Well, I played at the College of New Jersey. I played there for 4 years. We had a really solid team, met some great people, some great players, and the coaches were also exceptional. And it turned out that when I finished school, the assistant coach was actually a pro and a manager at one of the local indoor facilities. And so they needed a pro, and he brought me on board. So I started teaching there, and I kind of fell in love with it right away, and been doing it ever since.
So you're at the indoor facility, and then I think that facility started. They outsourced to Pretty Brook. Is that how you got
Correct.
over there? To
Yep.
okay.
Yep. Exactly.
Eh,
The owner at Winning Touch Tennis, where I was working, they had the management contract, and he was the director at Pretty Brook, and then he had some other ventures that he went off on, and started new programs elsewhere, and then I got put into that position as a director through Winning Touch Tennis.
That's great. Tell us a little bit about, you said you fell in love with teaching, and you do. I mean, I've been out, we've done camps in the spring and the fall with you, and we've been up there in the winter because Pretty Brook is great. It's got 5 outdoor courts, clay, and then it's got the indoor court. It's got 2 squash courts, 2 paddle courts, and now you put two pickle on the indoor for the summer guys. Play pickle on
Yep.
the inside. But tell us, you still love it. I mean, you're still so energized. What really makes you love teaching tennis?
I mean, I think there's a lot of things that I like about it. I think first, you get to be active. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to be sitting behind a desk for, 9, 10 hours a day. It's just not doable. I obviously have some of that in my role at Pretty Brook, but, I get to be out in the court. I get to run around. I get to be social, socialize with the members on the court, off the court, um, and kind of around the club. And it's also rewarding to see your students or lessons, make improvements. So, like I said, there's a lot that I like about it. And every day I go to work and it doesn't really feel like I'm at work. It's just fun.
Makes the day go fast.
No question about it.
You've done a great job there. We've been there for a while together working, and you've made the programs. We brought in different ideas as a firm, but you've made them all work, or not all of them, but most of them. 105 is a massive hit there. The club there on Wednesday nights has what they call grill night during the summer. All the families come, the kids are running around the pool, and we got it up to, I think, what, 4 or 5 courts going to 105, which had never, when we started there, if you remember, they weren't going to give us 2 courts of teaching, remember? And we said,
Right.
hey, we want to change this about. Why why is 105 and why is live ball getting so popular? Do you have any, can you put your finger on that?
I think 105 makes it a little bit easier to blend levels than if you were doing a round robin, let's say. And it's fast. You're always running around. It's fun. So it's really social, and you get a good workout at the same time. And it's just a fun game. So I think, the combination of playing tennis, blending the levels a lot more, where you can have players that you might not normally play with on, an actual doubles game or a regular clinic. It makes it a little bit more entertaining for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, your members love it. A lot of the members up in New England, Northeast love it. But you've made it really fun there. Your feeding is fantastic. Your feeding is great. I mean, I remember doing a 105 with Kinsey and the guys, and your feeding is like making the point start really difficult.
Well, you got to make it fast. Got to keep it moving.
So I want to go back to when we first started there. Harry Gilbert, who's our partner in crime.
Yep.
Um, when we got there, and you had said this just before that you worked on the for an indoor court provider who then took over Pretty Brook. And what I'm interested in is how you took kind of that commercial sense of indoor tennis and prepay and court, well, they have court time obviously at the club, but prepay into the summer season. So if you had a private clinic on the indoor court, you ended up having a private clinic on the outdoor court, and you were able to do that. A lot of clubs don't have that. It's not, the clinic's year round, and you prepay for that for the outdoor. Do you remember those days?
I do. It definitely has started because I was working with an indoor company, and so we kind of moved that kind of style over to Pretty Brook has an indoor court, so we said and only one indoor court makes it actually a little bit more important to have the prepaid, because you want to make sure that everyone you're getting everyone can play on the court. There's a lot of high demand, so you want that opportunity to kind of fill those clinics, and if you can do prepaid, you're filling them up right away every time, which is great.
And but then you carried it to the summer, right? I mean, you had
Yeah,
the
well,
summer
I mean,
private
I think
groups.
that just it was easy to do that because we already did it on the indoor court, so why not keep that same style and that way too. We only had one pro, really me, for the
Mhm.
number of years that I was there, and there wasn't really enough lessons and clinics and so forth to go around for more pros. So we only had one court of clinics, which meant it made it easier to use that prepaid style because members could prepay, and it guaranteed them a spot in that clinic at the time they want to play. Whereas if we had multiple pros, then it would be less important for the members to prepay because they could drop
They
in
could.
anytime they like because there's more courts available,
That's a
right?
good point. That's a great point. Yeah, because what happened was we the first summer we were there, it was basically, as you say, it was you with I think a couple of assistants part time, and then the next summer we brought in Valeria, who was a whole new situation to having a full time assistant pro at a club, and that's I alluded to it earlier. Was what we were asking for two courts because we had you and Valeria, and they
Right.
didn't want to give us some courts on Saturday mornings, prime times. Remember
You
those
know,
days?
up until you guys came on board, because I'm not, nobody knows, but I've been there for 14 years.
Yeah, we
Um,
didn't mention that.
so
We
so
inherited
I was there
courts.
for a long time, and I still am there for a long time. But with the sorry, I just
That's
lost
all
my
right.
train of thought here. Um,
Don't worry, we can edit.
remind me of the question again.
So I said, do you remember that those times where before we had Valeria, we had one court, just you and a part-time assistant. But then when we brought Valeria in, we had to talk to the club and say, hey, we need to have
Oh,
two courts.
right. So before you guys came along, we actually didn't have any teaching on the weekends. And so it wasn't just not two courts, we didn't even have one court. There were times where I would go teach a private lesson in the morning or a clinic in the morning, and I would get a lot of heat from the members because they couldn't get their court to play on in the morning when we had five courts going. And there, because before too, we didn't have online reservations or even court reservations at all. It was
Right.
when I first started, we had go to the club and write your name on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
And whoever got there first and put their name in, they had those courts for an hour and a half, and then would switch over. So you would have a lot of members kind of sitting around on the terrace waiting for the court to open up. So when I was
How
teaching
times have
out there,
changed.
yeah, members were not happy when I was teaching out there because they couldn't play. But now, it works out much better because we can accommodate as many or more members in our 105s and cardio tennis that we do on the weekend than even, someone playing doubles.
Yeah, I mean that was a big thing is that we asked for. Well, I'll come back to that, but yes, I remember when the board said to me, "Hey Ed, Saturday mornings were packed." Now you're going back before us, and I think a couple
Right.
years before us, before we joined you, where the courts were packed. And when we got there, I did a study, and the Saturday mornings had kind of. This is pre-COVID. It kind of slowed down a little, and I showed them that we could take a court on Saturday and really not disrupt much. And that's how we got that we educated the board, got them to give you a court so you can teach on Saturday.
Right.
Um, And
Which
some
is
of the,
important, right? I mean, that's where most clubs are doing
right.
a lot of the business is weekends. Everyone's off from work, kids are off from school, perfect time to teach.
And one of the complaints I had from one of the members that proposed that we take over from Winning Touch was, I can't get a lesson on the weekend. Well, it was because they weren't allowing you to teach on the weekend. So we
Correct.
had to
We
educate the
could, but
board there.
we
Yeah,
could, but not during prime time.
not during prime time. And then, if you recall, we got the indoor court because cardio and the 105 was so popular. The club gave us, I think it was 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for the indoor, which we didn't have before. And this
Correct.
again was a part of an educational effort by you and me and Harry to tell the board, hey, we can placate 18 members, or 16 members in that hour and a half, and really get more bang for the buck. Because again, the club is collecting court time for those lessons and those clinics on the indoor.
Right.
One of the big arguments we've always had with the club, that court time. We won't
Yeah.
say anything. Um, so no, it was a big change, over the 3 to 4 years. I mean, we look back now and you realize how much changed that. And we brought Valeria in, and she made a big, she was fantastic. She made a big difference for the club in a full-time summer assistant.
Yep.
And for you too, it was a challenge to you, I think, because you ended up having to manage someone full time. Before that, had just been kind of part time. How did you grow into that role in managing Valeria, who's not always the easiest to manage?
No, I actually thought she was great. Very, she was.
She is. I'm joking. She probably listens to
Uh,
this. She's fantastic.
no, but I mean, I actually found it easier because I had someone who was there as a full-time assistant in the summer, someone who's always there versus, me trying to manage someone who's coming in for 10 to 15 hours a week, which I found a little bit more challenging because it varied week to week, or, oh, they weren't fully committed because they're only teaching 10 to 15 hours. So maybe things would come up and say, oh, I can't make it today. So having someone who was there full time, I thought made my life a little bit easier, actually.
Yeah, I think you got a little happier when you had someone there, and she
Well, there's
strung
no doubt.
rackets. We didn't think about that. At that time we were running we were running the squash, the paddle, which we'll get onto, everything, and you had a partner in crime. What? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I said absolutely. That's
Yeah.
that's
So then we went back to the winter where it was just you and part timers. Valeria came back for a second summer, which was great. And then the third summer, she got poached by a club up in New England, which we won't talk about. She got poached, and we brought in another woman named Sheer, and Sheer actually knew Valeria Sheer Azran. It was a wonderful pro, and ended up staying for the whole year. So you had a pro for the winter. So for the first time, we had a full-time second assistant, or assistant, you being the director, and that allowed the whole program to grow, not only in the summer, but then again in the winter when you were able to go out and I know you had an injury for some of that winter, but
right.
go out and double up as our paddle pro, which is growing in popularity, platform tennis. So take us through that. I mean, Sheer did most of the indoor teaching, and you were outside most of the winter, correct?
Exactly. I mean, so Sheer was on full time, was awesome. And like you mentioned, I had an injury, my back injury. And so I did teach some paddle outside, which was great. I was able to grow the program a little bit while Sheer was on the tennis court, which was the best part about having that full-time assistant pro is we
Yep.
could, really start going into paddle a little bit more, where when I was the only full-time pro, I was on the tennis court the whole time. So really we couldn't grow that part of the program. Unfortunately, with the injury, I didn't get to do as much as I would have liked. But at the same time, it was a start, and now we have another full-time assistant in
Yep.
Muhammad who
Yep.
is doing a lot of the tennis, and again frees me up to start to grow that paddle program.
Yeah, panel program is going to be huge. I think with the growth in membership, and what we'll say, I mean, a lot's down to you, Corey, but the club, when we started consulting with them, was around 160 members, and now they're up to 211 and growing. So
Yep,
it's really a success story. And then, the funny thing, the book note or the footnote of all that is Valeria left us to go to a very high elite club, which is like Pretty Brook, but a bigger job. And then they let her down, and then she ended up working for us in Colorado. So,
Right.
once you know a pro, you know a pro, and you know how good she is. We're going to take advantage of that. Muhammad's turning out great. Spoke with him the other day. He's a great kid. But I
Yep.
hope you're mentoring him. That's kind of the fun part of your job, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, but he's a quick learner. He came on and at first he's always had high energy, which is one of the most important things on the tennis court, I think. Good content, but maybe lacked a little bit of structure in the
Hmm.
clinic, especially at the beginning. And he's really come into his own and has really upped his game. And the members love him, and he's a really really hard worker as well. So it's
Yeah, we were really, I think he approached the club or approached you, and we were really lucky to find him because um, housing there and housing is tough, right? If you don't find someone that lives in Princeton or in the environs of Princeton, it's not easy. And we had a house share, we had a house Valerian, and members were very hospitable is the word because they did house our staff.
absolutely.
But that becomes difficult if you start going year round, which we did. And then as the program grew, Mohammed heard about it, I think approached you. Um, what were some of your challenges in getting Sheer, for example, without a car to the club? You remember those days in the snow?
I mean, Sheer was able to kind of manage that herself. I mean, she found rides or walked or biked, and but that is a challenge, when you have someone who doesn't have a car as one of the pros, and you're not able to house them on the campus of Pretty Brook. Um, that is a bit of a challenge, but she did a great job making it work.
Yeah, I moaned when I found out when I was so we started consulting with Pretty Brook, and then we became the interim manager when the manager resigned. We were there, and I saw the original plans of the clubhouse. I had a nice little apartment there where the fitness room part of the finish. I moaned when I said, "Oh my gosh, we could have had housing for a pro here, which would be perfect." But when they remodeled the club back, I guess 10 years ago, they did away with that apartment, which not so sure that was very foresightful. Um, but going back to the program, how do you see you know the club's got the one indoor they're talking about doing a second that's down the road, I think, second indoor and adding a squash.
Right.
But how do you see the program growing from where it is now? What do you think are your next challenges?
Well, I think now where the club is growing the most is we've really upped the membership, but the members that have joined are now a lot more younger families who are using the club a lot more. There's more juniors, so I think it's great, and I think the next step in the program is having that junior program really grow. And I can see it happening right now, and I'm sure we had 20 families join the club this year, most of them with younger kids. And again, most of them are really taking advantage of the program and, and the facilities at Pretty Brook. And I think that's kind of what's going to be happening over the next few years. I think we're going to have, again, big numbers joining the club each year, and then likely younger families where they're going to be using the club a lot. And so I think the junior program has a lot of potential, where that's where we've kind of lacked in the
Yeah.
past.
We banged our head against the wall for a few years there, and it wasn't for not lack of trying, but the
Right.
club was going through a demographic change, and it has gone through that change now. It's gone from it was kind of viewed a little bit more as a eating club with tennis courts, and now it's a tennis club with a dining room. And the families have been moving in, and that's helping our junior program. It kind of kicked off, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago, that when Brookie's camp, which is the day camp, got bigger, was brought back and got bigger after COVID.
Right.
That was kind of the kickoff.
Yeah, the
Um,
camp has been pretty popular over the last few years, and that those juniors who are playing, they're mostly the younger juniors who are between 5 and 9, I would say, are doing the camp, and
mhm.
that's really feeding the junior program because they're going to be the juniors at the club for the next number of years. So
And in the camp, are you doing? I mean, you're doing tennis, but do we do pickleball? We do pickleball
they
too,
do
right?
we do pickleball, tennis, and they also do squash
Yeah,
uh,
squash.
and swimming. But at least they had a little taste of pickleball, which is kind of nice because they all enjoy it. And I think it's probably not probably it is an easier sport to get out there and just start playing. Uh,
Yeah.
the kids, especially the kids who are maybe not quite as coordinated or strong with a racket in their hand, can get out there and still have a lot of fun and still really play. So it's nice to give them a little taste of that as well.
Yeah, it was fun having the different racket sports. We don't manage a lot of clubs that have so many, four racket sports, but pickleball, platform or paddle,
Yep.
squash, and tennis. And it was quite a challenge for Harry and me to get our heads around how squash is different. It's aimed mainly at kids. I mean, there's the older adults, but the kids really, the high performance squash is a different kettle of fish than just running a junior camp. So it was interesting to get our heads around that. We see that still, right? I mean, obviously near Lawrenceville there, Princeton has got a lot of squash going on. So the squash is very popular. You still stringing the squash rackets?
Still stringing the squash rackets.
That's
Yeah.
good.
So
Um, Go ahead.
no, I said that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, that's right. How do you think squash and pickle and paddle are going to grow? I mean, pickle, we're doing the Friday night round robins.
Yep.
When I was there in September, Muhammad had pickleball lessons after camp on the days. Are you seeing a little more monetizing of pickleball? Because that's always the
Yeah.
big question, and you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, we have a couple clinics that are going on each week. We don't have a lot just because I think the lack of indoor court time.
Yep.
The court time that we're allotted for pickleball, we've got clinics going, and we do once a month. We do the Friday round robin social, which has been really good. We've had and we only have room for two courts on our indoor court,
Mhm.
so we end up getting somewhere between 10 and 12 players each Friday night that we do it. And they kind of rotate around, play against each other, socialize a little bit. So it's been picking up, at least as much as it can during the indoor season where we're limited in court time. I think once we get around to next summer again, spring and summer, when that indoor court is not used so much by the tennis players, I think we have a lot more potential to grow pickleball where we can get on that court a little bit more often.
Yeah, I think the pickleball is going to grow there, and I think there's a battle every year between members who want to just play doubles on the indoor and us teaching, and the pickleballers now want those hours, and it's getting a little tighter as the club grows, from 165 to 211, so it's a little more of a jigsaw puzzle for you to figure out each year, which you do a great job of. It's not easy, and then we
Yeah, of
always have to let a few members down or rotate members in, and it's not as easy as you would think because people want to play their tennis.
course.
Uh, where do you think you're going to be in 2 to 3 years, maybe 5 years? I mean, obviously you love Pretty Brook. I don't think you're going to go anywhere, but do you think you're going to be able to grow the program how you want and as you're and I'll say that you have two older the kids are getting older. When I
Yeah.
knew you, they were young and rambunctious. Now they're little ninjas and they're very disciplined, so to speak. Where do
Yep.
you see yourself as a dad, and how you're going to work that around your schedule at Pretty Brook?
Well, I think first I'll start with Pretty Brook. I think Pretty Brook is going to continue to grow. I think all the programs will, and I'm really looking forward to. Like I said, I've been growing the paddle program. I've really grown to love paddle over the last number of years, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to grow that program. And I think there's a lot of room for that program to take off, as we don't have a lot of members that play at the moment, but there's a lot of players who have expressed interest and everyone that I get out there seems to really enjoy it. So I think, all racket sports at the club are going to continue to grow. And I actually plan on doing some paddle in the summer as well. So we'll see how that goes. And maybe we then have to get a third pro. Um, and third pro maybe opens up a little bit more time for me to do some of the admin work, and I'll also be that dad that you were talking about, watch the kids ninja competitions and just, be home and have fun with the kids.
Yeah, work-life balance is important, and you know, you're getting there really early in the mornings. A lot of people ask me, "Hey, how do you get those courts swept?" Corey sweeps the courts. Okay, Corey and Muhammad every morning sweep the courts at Pretty Brook, and a lot of clubs, pros are not so amenable to that these days. But you guys have been a team doing that. The courts have never been better. I mean, when I got there in September, every member said to me, "These courts are fantastic," and we did a lot of work on them. Remember with the
Absolutely.
underground watering. We kept trying trial and method, trial and jury and whatever that is, test and
Trial and
trial.
error.
Yeah, trial and error, trying to keep those courts from getting those lines on them, and then keeping them scarified just enough to keep the moisture right. And this year, I mean, the last 2 years they've been fantastic. What do you think your biggest challenge coming down the road's going to be? Is it going to be finding a third pro that lives in the area, or housing, or
I
how's
mean,
that going to work? And staying
I think
abreast
that,
of the market.
yeah, I mean, when the time comes to find a third pro, that's always going to be the biggest challenge because you got to find the right fit. We got to make sure, that if we do need a third pro, we've got to find a way to make it, beneficial and profitable for the third pro as well, in addition to the club and the program.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say that's probably going to be the toughest challenge. But there's a lot of opportunities, even though it's been difficult to find pros over the last number of years. We've made it work. So I'm confident that with a little research and some hard work, we'll be able to find the right person for the job.
I have no doubt you're good at finding those people, and we help. Harry and I help.
Of course.
But yeah, it's been great having you on the podcast. I'll be up there in December, where I'm gonna bring my the warmest clothes I own. I don't have many. But we'll see in
It doesn't
December.
even get
And
cold anymore, Ed.
yeah, yeah, I know the courts, are they still outside? I mean, we're in what, it was November 13th today. Is you still playing outside?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
We have four out of the five courts open still.
see,
And most days we got, at least a few courts being played on. So
that's fantastic. God love global warming for our business, at
for
least.
one reason anyway, right?
But thanks for your work this year, and as always, it's a pleasure to work with you. And I can't wait to see you in December.
Same. Looking forward to seeing you again. And thanks again for having me on the podcast. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks for being here.